Speaking of the Boogeyman, does anybody remember this guy? Yes. Love him. I went to this really late showing of the Boogeyman on Thursday. They had two showings. The 7 o'clock showing was sold out. And the 9:45 actually had a decent amount of people show up. But I am the only one in movies where they have jump scares. I am the only one that makes any noise. Every time there was a jump scare in this movie, I was like, oh shit! And then everybody would laugh. I think they were laughing because it scared them, but then also like, there's this one girl in the theater that is always making the noise. And like, I can't help it. When I'm scared, I scream. The movie centers around this dad and his two daughters after the loss of their mom. He is a psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't know which one. He works out of his home, which is good when you are a single grieving dad. Bad when you have unhinged patients who know where you work and live. So this mysterious guy shows up. Things start happening in the house after he shows up. And it's the typical story of adults not believing their kids until it's too late. I started out liking the movie. It is based on a short story by Stephen King that I have not read, but I do want to read it. I think it might have been in The Night Shift, which is, I think, a collection of short stories. I don't know, but I put it on my wish list for Audible. That I'm gonna wind up either using a credit or just flat out buying them because I'm kind of in the mood to binge Stephen King. Which that guy, like, he is gonna like keep making books and having movies made out of his books until the very end. That man, like, people have always been into this guy, and he has always made money off of movies. And I feel like every movie that's ever been made from his books has been remade to death. That man has got it made. Like, they are still making movies based off of his stuff. So I guess because this movie was made off of one of his short stories, maybe there wasn't a ton of material to flesh out the plot, the story. So I feel like there wasn't as much substance as I would have liked. The backstory of the monster in monster movies never is. I always say this, but I'm always more interested in, what is it? Where does it come from? You know, why is it doing what it's doing? The movie is always more centered around people trying to survive and like escape something versus what's happening and why. I guess I asked too many questions. I liked the house in the movie. I did feel like it was a good setting, and the actors were really good. They really seemed like a family, a real family. And especially the little girl was really good. And the older sister is from Yellow Jackets. She's my favorite of the flashback cast of characters, the high school kids, which I think she's in her 20s, because most people playing high school kids never are. Like, some of those women playing high school kids are 30. It's time to stop. But I definitely felt for the dad parenting alone, because I have a little girl, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if something happened to me and Danny had to be a single dad? And then I felt for the little girl because she's maybe a few years older, several years older than my little girl. My little girl is about to be out of toddlerhood. She's about to be a preschooler. Where's the time gone? And I've heard some comments online comparing this movie to early 2000s horror movies like Darkness Falls, which I haven't watched that movie in probably, I don't know, 20 years. I vaguely remember it, but I do remember just like the feeling of it. And this movie, I can see that comparison. The stranger Lester that I mentioned before, when he shows up at the house, he is very effective. He's been in other movies like The Dark Knight, As a parent, his story in the movie is so messed up. He, as an actor, he is very memorable, and he plays well with really dark, crazy characters. The monster was okay. It was kind of humanoid. I'm gonna do a little bit of a spoiler here. Skip to this timestamp if you don't want to see the spoiler. But the monster was kind of humanoid, but it was more a monster. So it had like the long legs, and it was like kind of human-like slash arachnid-like. And I prefer monsters that look more human than monster movie monsters. I don't know. I've always preferred that. But there was one really cool part that I would have liked to have seen more of, or to learn more about. So in the end, when there's this big showdown between the dad, the daughters, and the monster in the basement, the monster gets the oldest sister, or the oldest daughter, and pins her down, and I guess starts like sucking the life out of her. That's kind of a cool image. But before that happens, the monster like basically unhinges its mouth, and there's like another head inside, and hands, like human hands. And the human's hands come out and like grab her face and then start sucking life out of her. But that looks even more human. And I'm like, whoa, what is that? What's the story behind that? That was probably the coolest part of the whole movie to me. But the ending overall was cliche, kind of predictable. They left it semi-open-ended. And the ending really is what was disappointing for me and kind of made me disappointed with the movie overall. The lead up was good, but the ending was disappointing. But I still wouldn't say that you shouldn't see this movie. I would rate it, out of my Freddy rating system, what would I rate it? I'd rate it 2.5 out of 5 Freddys. Wasn't great, wasn't the worst movie that I've ever seen. And if you like Stephen King and you want to check it out, check it out. Like I said, I'm going to find that short story. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the other short stories. I'm going to get myself on a Stephen King binge. I don't know. I'm really into audiobooks, but like part of me just really wants to go and like buy some hard copy books. I haven't done that in so long. I could also like download them on Kindle and stuff. It is cool that there's so many different ways that you can consume a book. You can listen to it. You can watch it in a movie. You can read it with your own eyes and hands and like hold the book in your hands. But maybe I'll read some of the short stories and do other videos on some of those. But if you like this movie, let me know. Let me know if you agree about my critique or if you have a different take. And like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more from me. I'm going to be also posting this on my podcast, Horror Mom Podcast. So if you'd rather listen, you can check me out on any of the podcast platforms. Subscribe to me there. Leave a review if you like, you know, all of that between the podcast and the YouTube. I feel like it's good to post in both places. Sometimes I strictly just want to listen to podcasts. Other times I want to watch my YouTube videos. I love both. So I like to make what I put out available on both if I can. And that'll be it. It's a very short video. Not a ton to say about it, but I'll see you in my next video.